Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Michigan City Sanitation Board meeting. Today's date, July 22nd, 2020. We like to call the roll call. I would just like members to say yay or nay if they're present. Eddie here.
I am here.
Frank Harris.
Here.
Okay. Jeffrey Wright.
Here.
Ken Smith.
Jim.
Just joined the conference.
I don't think Tim's there, Gary.
Okay. All right. We like to make note of that Smith is not present. Let's get approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion?
There's just one correct in reviewing the minutes of last week. Underneath minutes, Mr. Smith, a motion to approve May 27th board meeting as submitted. It was seconded by, on first page, about halfway down. It was seconded by Mr. Eddinger, not Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris was not present.
Okay.
Look at the minutes where it says minutes in both. Mr. Smith made the motion. I actually seconded this as whole.
Yep.
Again, it was not Mr. Harris.
Okay.
That's
Right. All right.
Everything else fine. I'll make the motion to accept the minutes with that correction.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Will there be any public comments? At this point, will there be any public comments?
Yes.
Oh, you there, Mr. Deutscher?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Could you state your name?
3504, 3502 Wild Rose, and vacant lot on Oakland Drive. I have requested the Michigan City Sanitary District supply lateral sewer taps to
Mike keeps going in and out. I can't hear him.
He's doing the best he can. We got it as loud as we can. Go ahead, Greg.
on Oakland Drive. Before I bought the lot, I contacted the Michigan City Engineers, Water Department, Sanitary Department to make sure there was sewer and water available, which was confirmed they were available. As I researched to tie in my sewers, I found out there were no laterals. I called Woodward & Son for a price to tie in the 3 sewer laterals, which was $57,938.88. I also called D&M Excavating, which never returned my calls, and Versal Earthworks LLC. Versal bid the 2 taps for $46,800. I have tied many sewers, and the most I've ever paid was $3,000 to tie in the sewers. This is an astronomical amount to tie in a sewer within a Michigan City limit. I feel that these buildable lots there should have been lateral ties put in when they did the new sewer in 2000. And any and all help would be appreciated.
Is that all you had, Mr. Deutscher?
Yes, I'm just requesting for lateral ties.
Okay. I'm going to talk for a minute. If there's anything else that you want to chime in on, feel free.
Okay.
We put together a memo for the board on this. Steve Stanford put together a memo kind of explaining the situation a little bit and noting that when the sewer was put in, that decision was made back in 1999 to include taps for only the existing homes at the time. Mr. John Doyle was the engineer, and he said the prevailing rationale was undertaken that the subdivision was divided into narrow lots, many of which were
Joined the conference.
judged unbuildable. Indeed, 15 narrow lots are included in the original subdivision along Wild Rose Drive and lots along Wild Rose Drive. They're essentially unbuildable because they're in the White Ditch floodway. Also, Mr. Deutscher was contacted. He contacted our office after he started building. He wasn't too far along. And of course, we told him that we only pay for repairs, half of the repair in the public right-of-way if it's a repair for an existing lateral. And I know Mr. Stanford reached out to him and explained that he could put a pressure line in at certainly a lot reduced cost. The biggest problem here is you're digging down into the peat. But anyways, what I'd like to ask the board is that we take this memo that Steve prepared and take it under advisement, Mr. Deutscher's comments, and we'll get back to the board at the next meeting with some type of a recommendation, if that would please the board.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Where is Steve's memo? Did you email that, or is it?
Yeah, it's in your board packet, and it's in the board packet, and it's in the shared file too.
the second memo.
Just a quick question. This is Holt. Hi, Mr. Deutscher.
How you doing, Holt?
Mr. Stanford put together really well. He put together a very extensive memorandum that we all have, and your letter in its entirety, and certainly a quandary. I just have one question. I believe you said the due diligence is. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly over the phone, but you mentioned that you spoke with the city engineer. At that time was.
Actually, I didn't speak to the engineer. I spoke to the planning department and the guys in the planning department, and I asked about if there's sewer water available before I.
Okay. And did they happen to give you any type of a memo or anything in writing that was going to be available to you?
No, they didn't, but when they passed my building permit, they're telling me that they're available. And that the sewer water, they said, reviewed by the sanitary district and the water department, and I was never notified that there's no laterals.
Yeah, Holt, this is Michael. The sewer is available and the sewer is there, but for new construction, it's always been the responsibility of the new entity, the new home, the new building. They have to pay for the lateral to connect to an existing sewer if there's not a stub there.
Yeah, it's pretty new sewer. I just thought there would be laterals. So our buildable line.
And he never really checked, asked us whether or not there were laterals before he started construction. It wasn't until after he started construction that he actually checked to see if there were laterals there.
With the sanitation district, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's the only question I have with regards to
So the sanitary district is another the project in the city. Hello?
What?
Say that again.
I know that the sanitary district has helped on other laterals on other projects in the city.
Did anybody catch that?
He said that.
Yeah, he said he knows that there were health assistance for other laterals in the city.
And I'm going to say,
Am I correct, Mr. Dolcher?
Yes, that's what he said, Gary. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm looking on the shared drive, Michael. I don't see Steve's memo on this here. It goes from item 0 to item 3. Is it like 1 and 2 or?
Should be item 4, item 4A.
Okay.
Oh, okay, item 4A. I thought you said Steve wrote the memo. This is from Mr. Mr. Deutscher.
Well, I'm not looking at the shared drive, but there might be a 4A1 or 4A1 or something that is right behind that. There's a letter from Mr. Deutscher, and then there's Steve's memo.
And also Woodruff and Sons,
Right.
this is whole, Woodruff and Sons, bid price that Greg got.
Yeah.
Well, are we looking for a motion to just take this under advisement? Is that where we're at? And so we can review it, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm recommending.
Could we get a motion?
I'll make the motion that we take this under advisement. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. All right.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim Smith. I just want to make sure that you let everyone know that I'm on as well, please.
Okay, we'd like to make a note of that. Mr. Tim Smith is now present. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Hey, Gary, I had one more thing I wanted to bring up during public comment. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
This is a letter from a Mr. Nowacki, from a Mr. Frank Nowacki at 134 Maplewood Trail. I'd just like to take a minute or two to read this. He says, "Gentlemen, I'm writing to thank you for hopefully resolving the extreme flooding problem that has been ongoing for several years in the street in front of my home. The problem had slowly gotten worse over the last 16 years, ultimately making the street impassable during heavy rains. When I contacted the sanitation department within a day, I received an email from Mr. Cuss advising that the district engineer Byers would be contacting me within a day. I heard from Mr. Byers the next day. Following initial communications, I spoke and emailed with Ryan Byers on numerous occasions, providing information, photos, and updates. Each time, Ryan responded promptly. He kept me advised of the progress in the planning and execution of the hoped-for solution. Ryan was extremely professional, but at the same time personable and patient in explaining the issues and the plans. I've worked in government for 17 years, and I have to say Ryan is one of the most diligent, concerned, and focused employees I've ever seen. He's a credit to the sanitary district as well as Michigan City itself. I was lucky to have him on the project. As of this writing, the sewer is much improved. I say this although we haven't had one of those extreme heavy sudden rains that usually cause major problems. Hopefully that when that occurs, the sewer will continue to function in a much improved manner. Again, thank you. Thanks to each of you and all of the others involved in this project to make this a success." Mr. Frank Nowacki, 134 Maple. I wrote him back, thank you, I agree. We are lucky to have Ryan on the sanitary district team and lucky to have all the other individuals that helped make this improvement possible. The best part was that we were able to accomplish this job with the materials we had on hand, with our own labor, and at a very low cost. Again, thank you for sharing your appreciation. He wrote back, "That's an excellent point," referring to the very low cost. And then Mr. Chris Yagelski, who is the mayor's assistant, wrote, "Hats off to a fantastic crew. I, for one, find it amazing how impressive and professional our sanitary district employees are. Thank you for taking the time to write a genuine letter, as they deserve the accolades." Chris Yagelski. So I just wanted to put that into the public record. I thought it was a good compliment that we received and some public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cuss. That was real nice. Safety, now we're going to move on to safety with Mr. Dan Coy.
Is that in a public comment?
Yeah, is there any more?
In public comment.
Is there any more public comment?
Mr. Deutscher, are you still there?
Yes, I am. I do have to say, Mr. Stanford was very good at answering my emails and phone calls. I do appreciate that.
It broke up on you. Someone.
He said,
I didn't hear any.
he said that he was very appreciative of Mr. Stanford's efforts, that he returned all of his phone calls and emails promptly, and that he appreciated the help and that Mr. Stanford gave him.
Okay.
Yes, Greg, thank you for coming and bringing this to our attention.
I appreciate anything you guys can do, and stay safe.
You too,
Thank you.
and your family.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Will there be any more public comment? Okay, we're going to move along to safety. Mr. Dan McCoy.
Good afternoon. To summarize the June safety performance, we did have 2 reportable injuries that occurred in June. Both of these injuries occurred in the refuse department, and both of them occurred during the time that the individuals were collecting grass clippings and compost. One was a strain to the left knee. The other one the other individual strained his shoulder. They're both working on restricted work activities here at the district, and their recovery is moving along well at this time. In regards to injuries I just spoke about, it ties in with the report that I provided to the board related to the yard waste compost collection using 32-gallon containers. I mentioned last time that in our last meeting that I had a good tour with Connie Adams, the foreman, and that was on June 4. And we looked at a number of different routes, and I made a number of observations on list in the report. One thing I tried to illustrate was the amount of weight that some of these containers amount to, and I tried to illustrate what this looks like on a daily and a weekly basis. So I made a number of assumptions with that, since most people, when they put out clippings, generally put out more than one container. And so if we take a look at that, we see that these gentlemen who collect the clippings really, they handle this by hand. Lifting these containers by hand really, work with quite a bit of weight on a daily and weekly basis. If we just take those numbers and divide it in half, they are still lifting something like 12,000 pounds per day per loader, even if we take very conservative numbers. So a number of the observations were that we have many households that use containers that are greater than 32 gallons. Since the report was written, I believe that is improving a good bit with what we've seen, but we still have some issues with that. Basically, we have some suggestions that we're working on, getting some more communication out. But anyone who's listening to this particular meeting today, we recommend that you check with Home Depot and Walmart and Menards and some of the businesses around town and look for the Rubbermaid containers. We're not endorsing any particular brand, but these containers seem to demonstrate a good bit of robustness, if you will, in standing up to the rigors of being dumped on a weekly basis. In addition, the cost is very good, and they only weigh about 10 pounds. So if you look for a 32-gallon Rubbermaid container, they run about $30, as opposed to some others that run twice that. working on some of the others, and a way of communicating with the public. Are there any questions related to that particular topic? Okay, if not, moving on, some of the other activities include preparation to perform the annual cleaning of the aeration system components with anhydrous hydrogen chloride. That was performed very safely, and we have completed that job. And just hats off to the maintenance department performing those tasks in a very efficient and safe manner. Other activities carried on during June include quite a bit of work related to the COVID-19 hazard awareness and prevention related activities, and I have those listed on page 3 or 4 of the report. Are there any questions related to what I've covered thus far? If you look at page 4, you'll see that we've done some work with the transit department, and the transit department does an outstanding job of cleaning the city buses each day. And we assisted the department in setting up the personal protective equipment, working with them on the procedures used to disinfect the buses each evening after they brought back to the barn for cleaning, to the garage for cleaning. So just hats off to the gentlemen who perform this task each day, and I believe it protects not only the operators of each bus, but also the public that utilizes the buses for transportation. And with that, that's what I have for the June report. Are there any questions?
Yeah, just a brief one. This is Holt. I not that I saw anything with regard to the inventory of our PPE, but maybe I missed it when reading. But are we in continue to be in good shape with regards to the inventory across the board for the sanitary district?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Yes, the short answer is yes. We're in very good shape. Very good shape. And PPE is becoming more available as we move along during this pandemic, and prices are coming down just a little bit. So it looks like that we're adjusting to some of the crisis situations we encountered before with personal protective equipment.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, you know, I like to make a comment too as well. I like those hazmat suits and different protections that you have there. They look great, man. Look like they cover you guys from head to toe.
Well, Gary, that's the objective. They're using a fogging machine, a portable fogging machine, and it really puts out a very nice mist covering all the hard surface areas on each bus. But we want to make sure that the individuals applying that are protected from the disinfectant. And so we were able to get some assistance from the Chicago Transit Authority, and they use equipment that is much similar to that. And then working with the DuPont company, with their Chemtech and Tyvek product lines, we were able to select the correct personal protective equipment.
Good job, Dan. Good job, man.
Thank you, sir.
I'm looking at this other memo, and it's got pictures of these 32-gallon containers that they're picking up. And I'm wondering, and it says down here under the conclusion, this is Jeff, under the conclusions and recommendations, consider developing an informational sheet. Is that like underway? Is somebody heading that up, or is that just
Yes,
a comment?
that's, yes, I'm working with one of the admin assistants to develop that informational sheet.
And there's other comments like getting it on the web page and that kind of stuff. Is that underway as well?
Well,
It's in progress.
Jeff, we've sent out sorry, Dan. We've sent out 2 press releases already about the containers. One when we sent out the spring cleanup, and then another one after that, I'd say, 3-4 weeks ago now. We sent out a press release about the proper containers, and that's should be on the website. I asked Caleb to post it on the web, on our webpage, so that should already be on there about the proper size containers and not to overfill them and stuff. I think Dan's just talking about making something a little more robust, maybe with pictures and stuff like that.
Yes, that's correct. Something that's a little bit more informative, flash that on the web page, and we'll also make sure that our inspector and the compost crews are able to share that with residents in the community.
Understood.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that, okay. The next item we have is opening of quotes and bids or proposals.
We don't have any this month, Gary.
Okay. The next item would be the COVID-19 health emergency update, the district functions.
Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone an update that the last meeting we put in there our COVID reopening plan. We've been following that for the most part. We really haven't had very many visitors, and we've been trying to, visitors that we can talk to, we've been trying to talk to them outside underneath the shade tree when it's sunny and hot out, keeping a good distance. Everyone seems to be really fine with that. Visitors that we have had that have come into the office, we've been taking their temperature and having them fill out a checklist of whether they have any symptoms or, if they've done any traveling to any hot spots. And then we've made a decision of whether or not, to let them into the office or let them into the facility. So far, everything seems to be going very well with that. With respect to our plan, we may consider some people working from home again here in the near future if necessary, but, I think one of our IT personnel is already going to start working from home again for various reasons. That makes a lot of sense. So just letting you know, we're just trying to stay on top of this and be in the lead, make sure that we don't get, that we don't have any type of outbreak of COVID-19 here at the sanitary district, because as I've explained, our operations are really critical to the city of Michigan City. So any questions about that? That's all I had then, Gary.
Okay. The next item is financial report from Scott Gisler.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start by reading the cash balances. Oh, I'm all right. I'll begin by reading the cash balances as of June 30th, 2020. The operating fund had $1,333,507.16. Operating municipal, that's a payroll account the city uses, $1,743.92. The improvement fund had $842,895.03. Vehicle replacement had $66,735.48. And the replacement fund had $650,053.46 for a total in that bank account of $2,894,935.05. The Indian Springs and Whipple project, they had no cash as we made the SRF payments for the amounts we had collected the previous 3 months. The SRF debt reserve had $499,406.99. The SRF bond and interest had $210,735.06 for a total at the Bank of New York of $710,142.05. Stormwater had $385,162.01. Once again, the municipal, which is a payroll-related account, had $737.74. Refuse had $1,279,033. I'm sorry, $1,279,033.02. Special revenue had $13,546.34. The levy excess fund had $8,522.14. The grant fund had no balance. We got reimbursed from both the government and redevelopment. So that wiped out the negative balance on that. And the rainy day fund had $0 for a total net bank account of $1,687. $1,687,001.25. And then the Carwick remediation had $387,765.09 for a total cash balance of $679,843.43. I added the column because at the last board meeting I had the balances as of June 24th, just to give everybody an idea where we were at. As you can see, we actually picked up in that last week roughly $520,801.32. So, I mean, our cash still remains really strong. Stormwater actually contributed a little bit to the tax levy grant fund. They'll be getting that back. And we also had some stormwater projects the second half of last year that decreased that cash balance, but stormwater still is okay. I mean, we made the payment back to the operations for the collection guys that do all the stormwater type work. So overall, we're still in a pretty solid. So, any questions? The next thing I put in the packet, we needed to hire a couple refuse people, and since it's paid with taxes as opposed to the user rate, Michael wanted to get the approval of the mayor to hire 2 additional staff. Now, it's not really 2 additional staff. At the start of the year, we had 20 people working in the refuse department. We lost one to retirement and another one to FMLA. So we're down to 18. And as Dan was saying, we've had a couple injuries in refuse, and we have 2 or 3 people on limited duty right now. So I drafted this memo for Michael. And the other thing, I wanted to include this because at the last few board meetings, Tim and Holt have kind of asked about the cash situation. And the one fund I was most worried about was refuse. So this kind of explains where we're at. And as you can see, we're still in pretty good shape, even though we only got 80% of the spring tax settlement. We haven't seen the last 20%, but I understand we're going to be seeing it either later this month or next month. So, if you have any questions on that memo.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mike, in that hiring of staff, did you mean management?
No, we could use some managers. A superintendent, as you know, has been vacant for several years now. I've kind of lost track. It's been so many years as a cost-saving measure for the refuse department. But no, we're not looking to hire a management at refuse. We're looking to hire a couple of loaders, driver loaders. And just one thing I'd like to add is that the mayor actually had issued a memo a month or two ago saying that we weren't allowed to hire anybody for the refuse department and other city departments that rely on tax funds without his approval. So that's why we wanted to get his approval. I did meet with him, and he was very happy that I met with him, and we gave us our approval to hire a couple people for the refuse department. As last sentence of the memo, Scott Kistler says, the conservative cash flow indicates that financially we could proceed with hiring employees with the mayor's consent. So I think we're good for that. We've already interviewed several people, and we're going to be bringing some new staff into the operating fund, into the collection department, which is also very short-staffed. We had just been short-staffed watching the budget, as you know, and then also we had another guy retire from that. So we're going to bring some people in for that department, and then probably hire 2 people for the refuse department also.
Sounds good, Mike.
If there's any other questions, I've included the budget performance reports for the operating fund, the stormwater fund, and the refuse fund. And, as you can see, we're still operating well within our budgets, and we'll continue to do so. Our cash flow has been kind of unbelievable. Especially operating fund, we're pretty much in line with what we collected last year on user fees. So overall, we're looking pretty good, both within the budget and on a cash basis. And so any questions on any of those?
Yeah, this is Holt, right? But if I know, the reports, they're very informational, and having you on board with this information, it's really helpful in it's along the way for our for our people, for the public, for who we serve. And just to one of the questions about is, have you had any direct verbal contact either with the auditor's office or whoever it is that we need to contact to see how tax collections are going?
Well, I can. They went well. The spring settlement, we got 80% of what we were expecting. And I believe Yvonne Hoffmaster, the city controller, has been in contact with the audit. Well, I talked with her, and she said she's expecting to see the remaining 20%. There was a little question on when we would get that, but it sounds like there's going to be a mechanism where the city can request it now and not have to wait until the end of the year. But I really haven't heard anything. I actually talked to the auditor, sent her an email about a different issue. It's basically the Long Beach sewer extension, and I haven't heard anything back from her. And I was hoping when I heard from her on that issue, I could ask her about that. So the last I heard from the city controller, it looked like we were going to be getting that money, and the tax collections too. I think a lot of them are paid through escrow with mortgages. So as long as the mortgage payments are being made, I believe we'll be fine with the tax. So
okay, so thank you for that information. Again, if in fact there would be a major delay of that 20%,
I left it out. Yeah, I left that 20% out, even out of the refuse. I in that little memo I wrote, I only put half. I put 10% being collected sometime in the second half of the year, just as a conservative estimate for refuse. So, but by the next board meeting, I think hopefully we'll either receive the cash or I can let you know what's going to happen on that 20%.
okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. And then, that brings up, the only last thing I have, it's not on the agenda, but the city is in its annual budget process. So I pretty much got stormwater and refuse put together. I will share that with the board report at the next meeting. They wanted it to the city by yesterday, but with some of the issues they've had, I hope to have it first pass, at least entered, so the city can review our stormwater and refuse budget. And I'll share that with the board at the next meeting. And with that, that's all I really have, unless anybody has any other questions. Well, hey, thank you very much and take care.
Thank you, Scott. The next item is the update on the updates of projects.
The next item is the refuse disposal contract resolution, Gary, item 9.
Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped one way.
The sanitary district has a contract with Republic Services to dispose of its household refuse. We entered into this contract in August of 2015. It was a 2-year contract with a rate increase the second year, and then it had rate increases that we could automatically agree to for the third year and for the fourth year. So we agreed to the rate increase for the third year, which got us to $39.25 a ton. And then instead of agreeing to the next rate increase for the fourth year, we asked if they would hold that same price, and they said they would. So we kept that same price for the fourth year. And then for the last 2 years on top of that, we've asked them to hold that same price, and they've held that same price, so we didn't have to enter into a contract. And this year we asked them again if they'd hold the same price, so we'd have to put it out for bids, and they also agreed to hold that same contract, or same price. So I worked with Mr. Meyer and drafted this resolution for his review, and he reviewed it and approved it. And so we have a resolution in front of you. It's Resolution 142320. It says, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners approves the renewal of the district's contract with Republic Services for the acceptance and disposal of refuse and debris at the same rates currently being charged for another contract year beginning August 1st, 2020 and ending July 31st, 2021. So I'd ask the board to approve this resolution. I think it's in the best interest of the district and the citizens of Michigan City.
Excuse me, Michael, just a quick question. You said $39.25 per ton?
I believe so, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll make that motion.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it, Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed.
Okay.
The next item, Town of Trail Creek request for cost share.
Yeah, the Town of Trail Creek engineer, John Doyle, sent us a letter on June 24th asking for us to, there are going to be two things they're going to do. They're going to put a storm sewer on Walnuts Road, and when they go to put the storm sewer in, there's some sewer laterals for existing homes now, sewer laterals for existing homes that are connected to our sanitary sewer, and they're going to be in conflict with the storm sewer. So they need to, in order to relieve the conflict, they need to make repairs, if you will, to those laterals, and they're going to do that by putting in a new sanitary line with a manhole. And John, in his letter, asked the sanitary district to pay $18,348.35 for the work to move that sanitary, put that new sewer in and conflict with the laterals. And then also he was asking that we pay 1/2 of the cost for a storm sewer inlet at the corner of Chapala Street and Michigan Boulevard. And he wanted us to pay half of that, which the cost for half is $6,985.42. I shouldn't say he wanted to. He's the town of Long Beach, town of Trail Creek is making this request. So I put together a memo. I met with John. I've talked to John several times about this and talked with Attorney Meyer about this too. I met with John today to look at that Chapala Parkway, but Let's go to the first item. It's our policy that we would pay 1/2 of a sewer lateral repair for an existing sewer lateral that's in the public right-of-way. So my suggestion to the board is that we would pay half of this, half of the cost, this $18,348, half of that to fix the conflict with the laterals, which comes to $9,174.17. And then regarding the storm sewer catch basin inlet, I did go out there and look at it, and there's no question that a lot of stormwater is entering this that's coming off of Michigan Boulevard. Maybe should have been something that was in the original plans when they did the phase 2. But I think it's fair for the district and this to pay half of that, which is $6,985.42 for half of that catch basin inlet and a pipe connecting to our existing storm sewer on Michigan Boulevard. I would like to note that John thinks there might be a conflict with a phone line, and if there is, then he's going to put a drywall in and the cost would be reduced. So I was asking for approval to pay 1/2 of the cost up to a maximum of $6,985.42. So again, that's the thing. If the board would approve those two items, should we take them? First of all, is there anybody that has any discussion or any questions about it?
Well,
Mr. Meyer, would it be best to take them one at a time, or should we do them together?
Yes. No, I'll take them one at a time.
So the first one is the move of the laterals, where we would pay half of the repair for $9,174.17. Gary, do you want to ask if there anybody wants to make a motion?
do anyone want to make a motion? Will there be a motion?
I'll make a motion, Frank Carey.
Will we get a second?
This is Holt out.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. There's no opposed.
Okay, and then the second one was paying 1/2 of the stormwater catch basin and the connection to our storm sewer for the stormwater that comes off of Michigan Boulevard. And that's $6,985.42. Do you want to ask if there's a motion, Gary?
So could we get a motion for that?
So moved, Frank Harris.
Can we get a second?
Second, Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's no opposed. Okay. The next item would be the updates on the projects.
Okay, I'll go through these, Gary. There's a few pay requests that we like to have the board just reiterate their approval for these projects, as you know. Cheney Run Stormwater Project update. The temporary bridge was removed, and the portion of the landfill cap, what he's saying landfill, portion of the Carwick dump site cap that was removed for the bridge has been repaired and blanketed. The contractor is substantially complete with all work requiring heavy equipment. The micro pool plantings are complete. The remainder of the live planting and seeding is tentatively scheduled for late summer of 2020, following the spring of 21, and midsummer herbicide treatments for invasive species will be done. Pending herbicide success, planting and seeding may need to be postponed until 22. V3 completed field inspection of the post-construction report required as part of the 401-404 water quality certification. That's a permit through IDEM. And also they will prepare a report and they will submit it to the IDEM and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in late July or early August. The report will contain a formal summary of items yet to be installed and or requiring additional maintenance. that's the update on that. If there's any questions about the project at all, the Cheney Run project? Okay, I know our city engineer, Jeff Wright, went out there with us and visited the site. Did you have any comments on it, Jeff, that you'd like to share with the rest of the board?
The only comment I really have is it's spectacular back there. And it looks really nice. Done a real nice job on the construction. I did have one concern while I was out there, and that was underneath this fabric that's along the top from the edge of the water up. There's some voids under there that are a little concerning. I didn't know if maybe our engineers on site who are, kind of designing and running a project can come up with a solution to that before somebody twists an ankle or blows out a knee or something, because you can't see these voids underneath this sock. It's like walking on a second level floor with a carpet down and somebody cut a hole in the floor and you step on that sock and it very easily hurt somebody's knee or somebody's ankle. I didn't know if anybody, did we bring that up to the V3 or whoever the designers are and tell them I'd like to see some kind of remedy to those?
Yeah, Jeff, that, first of all, that's the Carwick project on the other side of the creek. This was about the Cheney Run that I was talking about, which, like you did say, you went back there and you thought it looked spectacular and you were very pleased when you were on site. But just to answer your question, if you remember, those were the spots that we were having the contractor stake down with some stakes to get the grass to grow through better. And it is something that we have brought up to the engineer. The engineer on that project is Weaver Consulting. And it's something, quite frankly, that we really need to schedule a meeting for, really even later this week or early next week to find out the status of the Carwick project, because we're getting a lot of pressure from contacts, maybe not pressure, but we're getting a lot of people calling, when are we going to open up the Carwick site back up to the public? So it's something that we need to get moving on. One thing, since we're talking about it, we wanted to put up a fence, and I was waiting for Woodruff and Sons to get back to us with a quote for a fence, but we haven't heard back from them. I called the fence company today myself, but we are addressing that, Jeff.
Okay, that's great, but I guess, for the record, I guess my recommendation would be you don't open that until those get fixed.
I totally agree.
Okay.
Anything else on the Cheney Run update? We've got two pay requests, one from HRP, pay request number 5, invoice number 1554-5 in the total of $38,597.40. It's been approved by the engineer on the project and reviewed by myself and sanitary district staff, and we've got the signed verification form, and I'd ask for the board to approve payment.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Frank Harris.
Can we get a second?
Yep, a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed.
Okay, then the next invoice is V3 invoice for construction engineering, on-site inspections and so forth. Invoice number 520218 for a total of $7,021.79. And this has been reviewed by staff and myself and signed off on the verification of services receipt form. And I'd ask for the board to approve this.
Can we get a motion?
I'll also make a motion.
Frank Harris, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, on the Carwick dump site project, I don't have a written summary update to read off to the board. I will note that the final as-built drawings were supplied to us on July 2nd. I'm not sure if those included the work that was done to the ramp area for the bridge. I would assume so, and then also Jeff's comments about the stapling down or the voids that are underneath the shore socks probably needs to be addressed. So we need to spend a little more time reviewing those as-built drawings before we accept them. And then we also need to schedule a meeting to find out what the plan is for finishing up this project and getting a final closeout on it. Is there any other questions about the Carwick dump site?
No.
We have a part of what we needed to do out there for our Department of Natural Resource permit for construction in a floodway is we had to do the habitat mitigation, and there's a contract from Weaver Consulting through their wetlands division to do inspections and reports. The entire contract or proposal was for like $73,000. But what we're recommending here is that we just enter into a contract to finish this up for the year 2020. Talking with Steve Stanford today about this, he seems to think that the district might be able to take over this part of the habitat mitigation, monitoring, and report writing after this first year's work is done by Weaver. I think that's something that I agree with. We'd like to look into it. But basically this is a proposal for services through Weaver Consulting not to exceed $12,919. And this is something that, again, is required by the state of Indiana, DNR permit, and Army Corps of Engineers and so forth. So I'd like to ask the board to approve this professional service contract for $19,000, not to exceed $12,919 for Weaver Consulting.
Mike, I don't have that.
Well, if you don't have it, either you lost it or whoever put the board package together, which was me, didn't put it in there. So there's only two people we can blame, Gary, you or me.
Oh, okay, no problem.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can we get a motion? Yeah.
I just have a second. This is Holt. I have a question, please. Prior to, if I could. Is that acceptable?
You're breaking up, Holt. We can't hear you.
You're breaking up pretty good, Hope.
Sorry, I just had a question. How about now?
There you go.
You have me back? Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Just prior to I requested a comment or a question. Michael, if I understood correctly, we are in the early process of getting or having someone and getting the reports from Weaver Consultants groups on this first year so we can plan to follow up on it and take over this after the first year of them actually doing the habitat mitigation monitoring. And so my question is, we do have someone planned to spend time with them while they're monitoring this, so we have, all of the knowledge. I mean, I know we probably have several people in the district that have the knowledge, but, the time and the knowledge. And the question is, if that is the plan, that if we do this first year, we will have information provided to on their mitigation monitoring, or is this something that we're going to have to renew every year with regards to, DNR requirements?
Our plan is to do exactly what you suggested, is to work with them while they're doing their inspections and certainly take, a look at the report that they'll have to supply to us, and then if we feel we can do the work next year on our own without having to do it through a consultant, then we'll be moving in that direction. If after working with them and reviewing the work and the reports that they put together, we feel it's something that we don't have the expertise to for some reason, then we would be coming back to the board and asking to move forward with an extension of this contract. But at this point in time, we believe we would have that expertise, and we believe we would be able to do it.
Okay, that's a great plan. I'll make that motion. I don't think I have a copy of it.
Well,
That's a professional services agreement, but we went.
That's what I was looking for. I couldn't see.
Yeah, I think Frank already made the motion. I've got it in front of me, and I seconded it.
Okay,
Okay.
that's great. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. No opposed.
Really great plan.
all right, thank you very much. So that's all we have on the Carwick dump site. And like I said, I really want to try to get pushing on trying to get that site open. Because the Cheney Run side, well, it's not going to be done for a while with the planning and stuff. Certainly the walkway's done. People could walk over there. Habitat, okay, we talked about that. Cheney Run / Carwick amenity study. They have 90% drawings done. They've received CAD files and they've been coordinating with vendors. They plan to have a conference call with us soon to discuss the 90% plans, and DNR has requested to review the plans, and they'll likely send those to the DNR so that DNR can review those. I did speak with Mayor Perry about this project a little bit, about going forward, at least in the short run, about who's going to maintain the Carwick site, and it's his desire that the sanitary district take the responsibility for maintaining it, at least in the short run. And he said in a year or two we could maybe reevaluate who would take care of it longer than that. But I think that sounds okay to myself. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to pay for the maintenance and so forth. Maybe we'd have enough left in that Carwick fund, and if not, we'll have to figure that out, work with Attorney Meyer and so forth. But also, I think this puts us in the position to make the decisions about what type of amenities we would like to approve and so forth. And I know myself, and I think I could speak for others that are on the phone, that the thought was to try to keep the amenities and things to a minimum. When I say that, they were talking about a zip line slide, a sledding hill, a hammock area, an obstacle course, all kind of other things, that a large bathroom and different things they were thinking about. I think we need to try to keep it more rustic and more just basic, and certainly that'll make it easier for the maintenance and so forth. But I just wanted to let the board members know that that's the current status of that. There's a pay request from V3. First of all, we have a grant that's paying for this entire study, that and a match from the redevelopment, so there's no cost for this study to the district. There's a amenities pay request for V3. They didn't have one last month, so they have one this month for $7,103.75. And I'd ask, this has been reviewed by staff, and it's a very thorough invoice, and also signed off verification of services by myself. And I'd like to ask the board to approve this invoice.
Can we get a motion?
Yes, Frank, yes, I'll make a motion.
Can we get a second?
Jeff will second. And is there
All in favor?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
You had a question,
I'm
Jeff?
just wondering if there was is there a PDF set of plans, Michael, for this amenities
Yes.
layout or whatever?
Yes, there are, Jeff. Yes, there are.
Is it emailable, or can you put it on the shared drive or something?
Yes, okay. I will definitely do that, sir. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, very well. Any other questions about the recreational amenities study? Okay, the next project that I want to talk about was the Southgate Neighborhood Stormwater Improvement Project. There's not been significant work completed since the June meeting. The grass was planted in the rear yards and they're waiting for that to grow. You might remember at the last meeting, we talked about the fact that they were supposed to put sod down, but they planted grass instead. Well, I've got the contractor to agree to a 43% reduction in the lawn restoration unit price. What I did there was I took the cost that they had for grass on the Ohio Street project, because the same contractor, and the cost they had for sod, and I looked at those two numbers and I used that ratio, and we don't have a signed change order yet, but we do have a verbal commitment from the contractor to agree to that 43% reduction, which will be good. It'll cut some costs down from the project. And there's a change order number 2 that does nothing for cost. All it does is extend out the time for finishing the project to October 15th, 2020. So that's the summary, and this change order number 2 is in your packet. And like I said, it changes the, there was some delays with rain and so forth, and certainly one of the reasons we needed to put these rear yard drains in was because there was a lot of standing water and ponding back there that really was a problem, and they couldn't get in there to really do the work because it was really bad this spring, so that cost them some time. And we talked about, how long do they need, and I just suggested, why don't we make it October 15th, and then this way we know they'll be done by then. So that's change order number 2 for the Southgate Neighborhood Stormwater Improvement Project, and it asks for approval of change order number 2. Gary? Hello? Who's there? Are you there, Holt?
Yes, I'm here, Mike Tim Smith.
Frank, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
And Jeff, are you still there?
Yeah, Jeff's here.
All right, well, I don't know, Gary, for some reason must not be there. Does somebody else want to ask if there could be a motion?
No, Mike, I had muted out. I'm sorry. I'm talking, man, and I had the phone muted out. I'm so sorry. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion, Tim Smith.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and then there's an invoice from D&M Excavating for $117,306.34. This has been reviewed by engineer John Gorsica, Steve Stanford, and also myself, signed off on the verification of receipt of services. And also been approved by the engineer Ryan Laughlin from Haas and Associates. And remember, this money is part of the redevelopments project, so there's no cost to the district. We just submit a request for reimbursement if you approve this, but I'd ask for you to approve invoice number C206476 for the amount of $117,306.34 from D&M Excavating.
Can we get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Frank Harris.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and we also have an invoice from Haas and Associates for their engineering work during construction that they've been doing. It's invoice number 2018-206-CN-08 or 08, and it's in the total amount of $9,208.50. And it's been reviewed by staff and engineers here at the district, and also myself, and signed off on the verification of services form, and I'd ask for approval of this invoice.
Can we make a motion?
I motion to.
Can we get
I'll
a
second,
second?
Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, then on the North End study, we have an update. They've transmitted draft shapefile databases and structured data sheets deliverable on July 17th to the Sanitary District. Our GIS coordinator, Tony Basil, is reviewing the deliverables. Haas and Associates will make any necessary modifications to deliverables once they receive a response from Mr. Basil. And then they continue to develop the hydraulic model of the storm system. They say they're approximately 95% complete, and they are developing the model for the storm sewer network, and that's about 50% complete. The next steps are to finalize the hydraulic and hydrologic models, begin capacity analysis of storm sewer system model, and engage sub-consultant for services necessary to complete modeling and capacity analysis of sanitary sewer work, and then complete the study report. It's been a long, ongoing project. It's glad to see they're making some improvement there. There is a pay request. We haven't had a pay request on this project for a long time. There's a pay request from Haas and Associates. It is invoice number 2019254-06 in the amount of $24,259.25. It's been reviewed by staff, and I've signed off on the verification of services form, and I'd like to ask the board to approve.
I'll make a motion to move.
Can we get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Long Beach Sewer Project.
You want to put that back in here?
Long Beach Sewer Project, I don't have a formal update. Basically, it's the same status as last time. We're looking for a resolution from the town of Long Beach that they've agreed to allow the sanitary district to accept the sewers and operate the sewers in their and be incorporated into the district. And typically, when you're incorporated in the district, it also comes along with refuse pickup, and we made sure they added that to their agreement, and apparently it's been approved, but we've never seen a signed copy yet, so we're looking for that. Stream alarm, is there any questions about the Long Beach project? You might want to, one thing is, you might want to mark your calendars that tentatively we're looking at scheduling the public hearing that goes along with the state revolving fund loan for August 12th, 2020. So that's a tentative date right now at 5:30 p.m.
What time?
5:30 p.m. on August 12th, 2020, a tentative date for the public hearing for the Long Beach sewer stormwater state revolving fund. Stream alarm ditch, we've got that project has been complete. There's a final certificate of completion, which is an item G triple I. Mr. Meyer, if you're still with us, do we need to do the certificate of final completion first, or should we do the other two pay items first?
No, you should do the certificate of final completion. You can do Doyle's pay request.
Well, we have a certificate of final completion that's been sent to us by Mr. Doyle. We've all looked at the project, and we believe the project's complete, and I'd ask the board to formally accept the final completion certificate for the water and sanitary sewer force main relocation at Stream Alarm and US Highway 20.
Could we make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Jeff will second.
I'll second, Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, then we have a pay request from, to close out the project from Woodruff and Sons. Been reviewed by John Doyle and approved, and also reviewed by staff and signed off on the verification of services form. It's Woodruff invoice number 80812 for a total amount of $14,223.95, and I'd like to ask for the board approval.
Mike, LL 3700.
Yeah, wait a minute, hey Michael, this was a...
I'm sorry,
project with the water. Yeah.
Right, I'm saying it wrong. It's $3,794.97 is what I'm asking approval for. $3,794.97.
Could we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Could we get a second?
I'll second. Ken Smith.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Just for clarification, the amount I read previously was the total amount. The remainder of that from the 14,000 was paid by the water department. We have a invoice from John Doyle for invoice number SD 2020-05 in the amount of $1,120.83. This has been reviewed by staff, and I request that the board approve that.
This is Holt, I'll make
Get a motion. Will you get a second?
I'll second.
Huh?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No opposed.
Okay, the next two items are on the agenda at the last meeting. The White Ditch cleaning project, as I explained at the last meeting, we do not have, the low bid was D&M Excavating at $178,303, and I guess low quote, and we do not have $178,000 for this project in our stormwater fund. What we would like to do is we would like to meet with the contractor on site and discuss the plan. I think there might be maybe some different ways to do this. We did reach out to the contractor. Unfortunately, he's unavailable before the meeting, so probably see this on the agenda again next month. So I just wanted to update you on that. The other one is the Strebel Pond vegetation restoration and maintenance. If you remember, we had some pretty good discussion about this at the last meeting, and it was decided to just wait till this meeting. We have discussed it in-house. I've discussed with Scott Kissler on at least 2 occasions and make sure that we have enough funding in our stormwater fund, and he's assured me that we do, and I've looked at the numbers also, and I believe that we do. And what I'd like to ask the board approval is for us to move forward with Applied Ecological Services for the base bid of $52,331, and to work up a professional services agreement and enter into that with the review and approval of
Just joined the conference.
our attorney, Mr. Jim Meyer.
Did you say 52 what?
$52,331 for vegetation and restoration and maintenance. That's the base bid. There was an alternative one for invasive woody species, which is something I think before that's for $9,961. I think we'd like to look at that before we would move forward with that. Maybe it's something we could do in-house. And then alternative 2 was to furnish plugs and install wetland plugs for new plants. Was $73,000, but that wouldn't even be until next year anyway, so we don't need to worry about that right now. So we would just like to look at the base approval for the base bid for Applied Ecological Services, $52,331, and we do a professional services contract, and we have it reviewed and approved by our attorney, Mr. Meyer.
Can we get a motion?
So moved, Frank Harris.
Second?
Jeff will make a second.
I'll second it, Ken Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the 300 North and US Highway 421 sewer project. I really don't have any news on that at all. Last I heard, the county was applying for some CARES grant, commerce grant, and I have no news on that. The Pine Tree Court sewer extension, I explained to you last time that we have received the information that we need from Mr. Pritz for the easement on Woodland Drive for our sewer, and I asked Mr. Doyle for a proposal for preparing construction and material specifications, providing resident project representation, providing periodic project oversight, and to provide administration, assist the district in selecting a contract, review pay request and change orders, etc. and preparation of as-built drawings. He gave us a proposal of $16,350, and I think that's a fair price, and I'd like to ask the board to approve us entering into a professional service agreement with Mr. Doyle for this amount, pending approval and review and approval by our attorney, Mr. Jim Meyer.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, Frank.
How about a second? How about a second?
Jeff will second it.
All in favor? Aye. No votes, no votes.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next thing we have is the Energy Savings Project monthly report. If you look at the highlighted for June, compared to the last 2 years' averages, we saved $1,625 was less on our bill. But when I say the last two averages, compared to the average of 16 and 17, which were the 2 years before we started the project. However, with the new rate increase that we have, with the new rates we're paying for the energy, if we were comparing those costs to those other 2 years, we actually would have saved $6,339. So it's showing some decent savings there. We would have paid that much more actually compared to our average for the 2 previous years. So I appreciate Ryan Byers putting this report together. Is there any question on the energy savings report?
No, sir.
Okay, and then I wanted to update the board on our work with ESG. We still have a shortfall in the savings that were guaranteed for the energy project. We've been going back and forth with ESG. We just sent them yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, our 4th settlement offer, which, likely will be, the last one before we would want to go towards mediation unless they come up with either they agree to our settlement offers or they come up with something more reasonable. We're still way apart on everything that they've brought back to us. They do agree that there's a shortfall. It's just that the shortfall that they're saying is way less than we could even bring to the board to say take it into consideration. So we're continuing to plug away on that. I spent literally probably 3-4 full days working on this myself and got the letter out to them yesterday after review by Mr. Meyer, and I had Ryan look it over also. Tried to make some solid points, and let's see how it comes back. Maybe it'll come back favorably, and maybe we can finally put this part of this chapter of this project behind us. Any other questions about the energy project? Okay, the Blue Swag report is in your packet. The one thing that, I'm not going to go through the whole packet, the Blue Swag report. One thing I'd like to say is we have not had one of our meetings, our Stormwater Advisory Group meetings, we haven't had now since, I don't know when the last one we had, February maybe, March, since the COVID-19. Maybe we might want to think about having a virtual one. Back in February or March, we all thought this whole COVID thing would be coming to an end by May or June, so it doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. But the one thing that's come out of that Stormwater Advisory Group meetings are these projects. We fixed two of them. One's on Maplewood Drive, one's on Maplewood Trail, and we have the materials purchased and have already conducted locates to install a dry well over on Broadway Street behind the fire admin building. So some positive news has come out of this group. We've got the very nice letter from Mr. Nowicki about the work that we did over there in his project that I read in the public comment period. So I think it's proved out to be a good endeavor to enter into this Blue Swag contract with Delta to coordinate this work. And then also they're coordinating the grants and doing a lot of work behind the scenes and submitting requests. Scott Kissler was mentioning how we've received our pay requests from the government, which we actually make to Delta, and then they send it on to the federal government. So we've been doing really well with getting that stuff back for the chain you run. So That's all I had on the blue swag. Any questions on the blue swag?
No.
One of the things we did, I mentioned at one of the board meetings recently about how for the first time in since the new plant was
Just
built,
joined the conference.
20 years or whatever, it's been longer, we put the sand filters into auto mode, and I reported to you every meeting that it's been working great. It still continues to work great. I had a lot of naysayers telling me it wasn't going to work, but sometimes you got to try some things to see if they're going to work, and so far it's worked out fantastic. It's allowed our operators to not have to babysit the facility, and actually it's cut down a lot on our backwashing. That's also saving us energy. One of the things I wanted to do though was I wanted to put a turbidity meter. I've been wanting to do this for a long time to monitor our secondary effluent going into the filter building, because if we were to have if we were to have poor settling in one of our 8 secondary clarifiers, that could overload the filter building very quickly. So we received we did a lot of work. Ryan Byers took the lead on this. He got, I don't know how many different quotes, and vendors came out and looked at this. He put together a memo to Steve that Steve reviewed and approved, and I went ahead and purchased a turbidity meter. It's called a quad beam turbidity meter for $1,976.50. So as you can see, some of the other meters were $6,000, $7,000, $6,000. And quite frankly, we believe this one that we've selected actually will provide us the best performance at really a fraction of the cost of the other units. So I just put this memo in here to let you know about the purchase. So we've already issued this purchase order. Any questions about the turbidity meter? Okay, the purchase order was in there also. Also on, I guess, July 13th, I issued a request for quotes for a rotary action actuator to be used on our 8-inch Pratt 2F2 butterfly Corsair valve. And then I wrote a memo up about this, which was dated today, and I put it in, I emailed it to you today. I thought it'd be a little easier for me to summarize it at the meeting today if I had it in memo form. We requested quotes from 5 companies, and we had some very tight specifications on this. We desire a fixed airflow to keep our mixed liquor and suspension in our area channel. Currently, we have the valve manually set at approximately 10% open. As the blower speeds increase, when we need more DO in our aeration tanks, when we get a DO sag, we're trying to put more air to the aeration tanks. Well, more air is going into aerated channels also because that valve's set at a set point. And what we'd like to be able to do is close that valve so it stays with the same. Right now, we're putting about 700 cubic feet a minute in there to the aerated channels. We'd like to keep it at that at all times. And so this valve will actuate that all the time. We will connect it to the flow meter that we have there and keep that right at 700. And as you can imagine, a slight opening or closing in this air valve will cause a significant increase in the flow. And we received 4 quotes. Easy Torque actually had the lowest quote. It was $3,178. But the problem with the Easy Torque is it's an air-actuated pneumatic controlled valve, and we do not want that. We don't have air back there, and that's not what the specification called for, so they didn't meet the spec. The next lowest quote was from Harold Beck & Sons for $4,468.38, and Flow Source had a quote for $7,300, and Rexa had a quote for $10,615. To be very honest with you, the best actuator on the market is this Rexa valve. It's actually an electronic valve, but then it pneumatically controls the valve opening through a hydraulic system. We actually looked at those valves. We were very excited about them until we saw the cost, as you can see, because there are more of these valves we might want to put into play. But the Harold Beck came out, and they have a very excellent product. They gave us several demonstrations, and we really like their product. So I'd like to ask the board to approve this air actuator valve for our 8-inch Corsair header for $4,468.30.
Can we get a motion?
Mike, just a question here. I mean, for something like that you want to get, do we even have to, you have the authority to get that, right?
I probably do, but I just wanted to, ask you for your approval on this particular one.
No, I'll make a motion for it.
Can we get a second?
Also second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, I wanted to update you on the PLC SCADA system upgrade. As you know, the contract with DMC has been fully executed. We had a conference call on this on Tuesday. Andy's done a lot of work behind the scenes to get the servers going and get them the ability to a VPN connection to be able to connect into the servers and do a lot of the work. We have the licenses either in place, or they're just about ready to be implemented. We had a really good conference call on Tuesday, made a lot of progress on this issue, something we've been working on since 2016 and kind of fell off to the side. So I'm personally trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I just wanted to tell you, we don't need any approval for this or anything because you've already approved this before. But I just wanted to show you that we have the Wonderware North pay request for $18,000, $18,018, and that's for our renewal agreement. And then we also have this other invoice that you approved before, the purchase of that you approved before for the other materials and stuff that we needed for this project, and the total amount of $27,457.37. I didn't need any, I'm not really requesting any additional approval right now. You can approve that when you do the pay docket. But I just wanted to point those out to you that we did move forward with that stuff, and we really appreciate it. Screens that they're making up for our operators' control room are really nice, and I think it'll really enhance our operations. If there's no other questions about any of that, I'd like to move forward to the Michigan City Sanitary monthly reports. Those are all in your packets. If there's any questions about those. There's 2 reports in there for the IT department because they didn't have a report last month. And then your operations manager, or our operations manager, decided to take a week's vacation, which I reluctantly approved early in June, and he had to give you a picture of some of the hard work he was doing on his vacation. I don't know if you guys looked at that, but
I want to know what that fish weighs.
Steve?
I didn't weigh it, Chuck, but I
want to know what store he bought it from.
That's what I said too.
19.9 walleye.
Yeah, I think it's Photoshop, right?
Hey, Jim, I was thinking the same thing, Jim.
The rough crowd.
Our monthly removal for, I just wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, Michael. Mr. President, could I make a comment? This is Holt.
Sure.
Sure. I just was wondering if Ryan, our engineer Ryan Byers, is on vacation. I noticed he not have a report in there.
Ryan Byers was pretty much overwhelmed with work. I was going to touch on that. Overwhelmed with work the last few weeks. And as you notice in his previous monthly reports, he tends to put maybe a little overzealous, a little maybe too much information. I've tried to work with him on trying to narrow down his monthly reports, and we also do weekly reports, and I've shown him how John Gorsica's, which you don't see the weekly reports. John Gorsica, for instance, he puts a lot of detail in his weekly reports, and then his monthly reports is like a one-page summary, and I've tried to ask Ryan to work on that, so I'll try to work with him a little bit more, but he was busy working on some stuff for this DMC, working on this stuff for the ESG, and working on this turbidity meters and these rotary actuators and all kind of other things that he's doing, sampling for Cheney Run, and he's got he's been getting a request for information for a free energy audit that we're working on, and then that turned into some more information about an electrical component that he had to work with Andy Mechanic on for our IT department. So I basically told him that he could skip doing his monthly report this month. So
Okay, thank you. I really missed it. It is quite informative and quite neat to read.
Well, if he does the same thing the IT department did, where he puts 2 reports in there, one for last month and one for this month, I'll make sure to get it to you a few days before the board meeting so you got time to read it, okay?
That would be a delight.
Okay, very good, sir. I just wanted to touch on the June superintendent report, if I could first, Gary. Our BOD removal was 97.5% for the month. Our solar suspended solids removal was 99.2% for the month. Our ammonia removal was 99.7% for the month. And our phosphorus removal was 93.5% for the month. And our E. coli limit is 235, and the highest E. coli we had, our average was 1.4 for the month. So I just want you to see what an excellent job this wastewater treatment plant does here for the city of Michigan City.
Awesome. Good job, Mike.
Okay, if you had anything else, I just wanted to touch on those things for the monthly reports.
Yes, were we going to move over to Mr. Meyer, where he come in?
So before I do, did you want to give the refuse report, Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I normally read the tonnage off for the refuse report. I'm sure the public is waiting with bated breath to hear the totals of refuse that we had for June, but it's just good to give these numbers out. In June, we had a compact total of 1,198 tons. For loose totals, we had a total of 129 tons. And for grit, we had a total of 173 tons, for a total of 1,500 tons of refuse that was taken to the landfill from Michigan City in June, which is more than in April and more than in May. We did have that little bit of help from the street department, if you remember. I think that added to our totals. And these men work very hard, as Mr. McCoy talked about in his safety report. They're working very hard and somewhat short-staffed, I think it's fair to say, and we're looking to get them a little more help. That's all I had then. Did you have anything, Mr. Meyer?
Well, the only thing I have in reference to Long Beach Incorporation is we are awaiting the signed resolution of the town requesting that the district incorporate the area of Long Beach to be served by the sanitary sewer we're talking about having installed. My understanding, as Michael mentioned earlier, is that the town council did approve such a resolution. We have not received a copy of it. I saw a draft before which is not signed, but we're supposed to be getting a signed version relatively quickly. So, just bringing you up to date on what's going on with that.
Mr. Meyer, do we have to have board approval of that before we can have the public hearing, or can we have the public hearing before our board would approve that resolution?
Well, you can have it before. The incorporation process is totally separate from
Okay,
after.
very good, very good.
Now, there'll be a hearing, a public meeting, I should say, with reference to incorporation, but they're not the same.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Meyer, just a follow-up on that question Michael just had. The incorporation into the district, does that require the city council approval?
No,
No, okay.
it's not an annexation. It's only the sanitary district boundaries that are enlarged.
Okay, so our board can approve that.
Correct.
Okay, I just had a quick question. All right.
I'd like to get a motion to approve and allow the tax levy claims for payments.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can we get a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is August the 26th, 2020.
Thank you,
Have
gentlemen.
a great evening.
Nice job. Thank you.